Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Can you tell me who you are?
My name is Yasmin.
Okay. Yasmin, where are your parents originally from?
My parents, actually, my mother was born in Uganda. So my mother is 3 generations in Africa, in East Africa. My father actually came from Ahmedabad, Haripur, and he was quite young when he came over. And he was a very skilled watchmaker. So he was about 30 when he married my mom. She was only 15. But the problem was because my mother had lost her mom when she was a year old, and the relatives were looking after her and her brother, my mamu. But they were not treated properly. So my grandfather, my nana, saw this happening. He was very young. He didn't want to get married again because my nanny told him, do not get married, because they had these 2 children after a long time. But she was expecting a 3rd one, and she had a miscarriage, and she bled to death. So my mom was 1 year old, and it wasn't very pleasant to be brought up by relatives. And so my grandfather, my nana, thought, no, I have to find a rishta for her so that she can settle down. And he met my dad, and he liked my dad because he was, he was working, he had this skill, and he was a very decent man. My father was a very decent man, khandani, really nice. So she got married to him, but the age difference was quite a bit. And he was 30, my mom was 15. And she had 7 children within the space of 10 years. Because I'm the eldest and my youngest sister is 10. Unfortunately, my father had a heart attack and he died. I was the only one who had got married at that time. I was 18 and they just got me married. It was about 6 months, and he passed away with a heart attack.
Where was you living at the time?
She lived in Nairobi, Kenya. My father had a watches shop.
So you mentioned your father came originally from Haripur?
Ahmedabad, Haripur, that area,
Yes.
yes.
What made him go to
I think he just wanted to, I'm glad that he did.
Yes.
I'm really glad that my father did what he did, because he wanted a better life, probably, explore the world and all that. And he had amazing hobbies. Like he used to have sports car, he used to drive a sports car, he used to do photography, movie cameras, when we were young. I've got movies here where he has filmed us all when we were so young, and at that time, in that era, not many people had that. And a very successful businessman with the skills he had.
Which skills did he have?
He had watchmaking. Watchmaking is a highly skilled job. Not many people can do it because it's so intricate, but he was really good in his job. And he built 2 houses. He was very clever. He had a forward vision. So he thought, well, if something happened to him, then there will be rent coming out of the other property, and that my mother can manage. I don't think he expected to die so young. He was only 50 when he died, And so my mom had a tough time bringing up all these children, one after the other, Like I said, 10 years' time, she had 7 children, And because my father started suffering from blood pressure, he wasn't keeping well, she was worried that we were 5 sisters and 2 brothers. She wanted to get rid of me, I think. Well, not get rid of me, but to get me married, you know. So my husband came from London, and I think what they wanted was somebody educated for me. That was the priority. My father believed and my mother believed in education. And because he was educated, they thought, well, yeah, this is good. So I got married, you know, at the age of 18.
Can you tell me your parents' name?
Yeah, my mother's name is Hafiza Begum. And my father's name was Muhammad Ismail Awan. Awan is our surname. Few people, like my father, had a car, you know, and then he actually taught my mom to drive a little bit, yeah, and he said you should know how to drive, which is godsend thing, because she managed in life mainly because of driving, because she lost him he was 50, she was 34 when he died. And he says, you got to learn. And so she learned driving. He taught her in the beginning, then she went through the process. And then she opened her own driving school. She was one of the first ladies to open the driving school for women, because women did not want to be taught by men. Our Muslim ladies, they wanted to be taught, even Sikh ladies, they wanted to be taught by a woman. So much, you know, not by a man, because they were more comfortable. So, mashallah, she did very well, you know. So, but when my father died, she had to stop the driving school and take over the shop.
The what shop?
The watch shop. And my father used to sell watches and do the repairing, watch repairing and all that.
And you was talking about education.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your education to begin with.
Yeah.
What can you remember about school, and which school was it you went to?
I went because it was in the colonial days, and the different religions, cultures had their own schools. Aryan school was for Hindus, Khalsa school was for Sikhs, Muslim girls school was for people like us. And I studied in Muslim girls school, where they taught us Urdu, they taught us Islamiyat, you know, and of course I did my O-levels.
Was this all in one school?
In one school, in Muslim girls school. It was a primary school, there was no secondary. So luckily, fortunately, I made it and I passed. And I then went to Duchess of Gloucester School. That was a girls' school. And it was really nice. That school was really nice.
What can you remember about the building?
The building was massive, big rooms, massive, and all this land in those times. There was no traffic like now, because even if you go to Kenya now, you will see a lot of traffic. It was quiet because not many people had cars. They used buses actually in those times. Yeah.
So you was born in Nairobi.
I was born in Nairobi.
You went to Muslim girls' school, and then you went on to
Duchess of Gloucester School for my secondary education.
What did you do after that?
I did my O-levels and all that. And then after that, I did 1 year's secretarial course, which was amazing, because that really helped me in my future, you know, because when I got married, I lived in Uganda for 2 years, because that's where my husband came from. He didn't go back to London. He just got a job in Kampala as a, you know, in how should I say, it was criminal photography and all that, which he did, you know.
When you was with your parents and you lived in Nairobi, what are the earliest childhood memories that you like to remember?
I've got beautiful memories. Yeah. You know, everything was a treat. Not like these days, people get everything on the plate, you know. We were 7, so, you know, but my father invested in us, in the sense that we always wore Clark's shoes. He was very particular, you know. We had a good lifestyle. I would say that according to that era, We had a good lifestyle. My father had a car. We used to go to Mombasa on the coast for a holiday. He used to take all of us, and but little things used to make us happy, like if on Eid we would be given nice new clothes and put mehndi, and go in the Ramzan we used to go to the masjid to do with my friends. I've got beautiful memories, and those were the best times in my life, because that kind of love, affection, care is not there anymore. The neighbors were nice.
What was your neighbors like?
They were very nice.
Were they all Muslim?
They were all Muslim. My father had this other house where he rented all these rooms, but the people, they were all Muslim, and during Ramzan they would bring food and we would take food for them, because they didn't have a television, they didn't have a refrigerator. They used to come and get the ice from us, and we had these trees we used to climb. They were jamnu trees and guavas and papaya,
Fresh.
We had trees, and we used to climb the trees and get everything down. And I feel sorry for my grandchildren. My children have seen this kind of life in Africa, in Zambia, but my grandchildren have no idea, because that was a simple, easy life, and everybody had time for everybody. We all used to meet, get together. We used to have khatams. My mother used to have khatam in the house. Ladies used to come, birthday parties, and it was a very simple affair, not like these days. But Alhamdulillah, I cannot complain. And the two things that I did in my O level was domestic science and health science, and I learned the basic stitching. I learned it in the school, to follow a pattern, to cut a pattern, to apply the zips, to do the buttonholes, hemming, overlocking, different kind of collars, different kind of skirts with pleats. There were patterns, of course, but had I not learned that in the school, I wouldn't have been able to stitch, because I did a lot of stitching in Zambia, and even here when I came. There was a lot of stitching I did. And the ground basis was that I was aware of all the application of the zip, application of overlocking, and all that. I could follow a maxi dress, and I used to go to work with every time a new outfit, because I was young and I loved clothes.
So before you got married, what did you do for socialising?
Socializing, neighbors. I used to just next door go to her house. She would come to my house, and then there were other neighbors on the left side, go to their house, and then go to the weddings with my mom. Go to khatams, for Quran, and we used to have plays, theatre, in the school, in the Muslim school. Our teachers, they used to perform the plays, and then
teachers performed.
Yeah, they were performing. And actually, when I went into the secondary school, Duchess of Gloucester, then we were performing qawwalis and dances. We were taught Kathak. I was taught Kathak, yes. There were a lot of opportunities, Those are beautiful memories. I will never. Used to play hockey, tennis, netball, rounders. Used to play that in the school, although I wasn't very good in sports, but I managed. My younger brother, who was only 13 at the time, my mom said to him, "Do you want to study or do you want to learn?" Because he was very interested in the watches. And my father used to take my both brothers to the shop on Sundays, just to let them have a feel of it. They complain about that now. Oh, we were so young, and Dad used to take us to the shop. The older brother of mine, I am the eldest, my second brother, my brother who's next to me, is only about a year and a half younger than me. He is highly intelligent, and so he wanted to study. So my mom sent him to UK to do a degree in electrical engineering. He did the electrical engineering, but he didn't think there was much scope in that. He was a very driven man, So he did his chartered accountancy in the evenings and then became a manager with Arthur Andersen, an American company. And after that Arthur Andersen, he had become a vice chairman of that company. It was an American company, but they did some fraud in America, and my brother here landed with all these problems. But luckily, alhamdulillah, it didn't affect him, because it was not them doing in London, they were doing it in America, So mashallah, he's done exceptionally well. He's one of the very few Asian guys who have come to that level. He then was taken over Deloitte's, the accountant company. It's a very, very big company. They took him over, and he sat on the board, vice chairman of the board. And he used to cook for my mom. She used to say, "You make kheer, Terry, you watch the kheer, and even putting the fall on the saris, But he could do anything. Even now, he can do anything. You want him to do electrics, you want him to do joinery, carpentry. He's one of those guys who can cook, who can do anything. I've never seen anybody like him. My younger brother got the experience in the shop. Somebody trained him, whom my father...
Which year was it, sorry to interrupt?
All this was going on around 1968, 1969.
Okay.
My father died in 68. So my younger brother took charge of the shop, meaning he was still learning from somebody that my father had employed, and my father had trained him. He in turn trained my brother. So my brother is one of the very few skilled people in watch making in this country. Wow. Because they came over, then they all came over here.
And you said that in 1968 your dad passed away.
My brother passed away, yeah.
And your brother, mashallah, he started working at the shop to bring some income.
The younger one, yeah. And my mother helped him. I mean, he was doing the watches. My mother was selling the...
How old was you at the time?
Who?
When your dad passed away.
How old was I?
Yeah.
I was 18.
And then you mentioned that at the age of 18 that you got married.
I got married, yeah.
How did you feel that you was being told at the tender age of 18 you're about to get married?
You know what, Shabana, at that time we were not allowed to, we were very respectful to our parents. And my father did not force me. My mother did not force me. They just said, there is this boy who's come. He's educated. He seems to be, he's educated. That's the main thing they looked at. And we think you'll be all right with him. And I said, well, it's up to you. In those days, we couldn't I just said whatever you want to do for me. I trust my parents, And that's how I got married.
Can you remember the ceremony?
Very well. I never forget it. No.
Would you like to share?
Yes.
Your day with
us? I had, first of all, we had a music party. And on that day, they put henna on my hand. The sad part is at that time, the girls never used to come forefront. They used to be in the house. Somebody was doing a mehndi and there was a music party going outside, singing, and ladies were enjoying. I didn't enjoy that. I was sitting because at that time, girls were not like the way they are these days, It was very different. This is going back to 53 years, half a century. So that was one, and then we had a nikah, and then the next day we had the rukhsati. And then I went to Kampala, Uganda. Of course, it was a shock to my system. I didn't realize what marriage entails, If I knew what I was in for, I might have not got married so young, because there were things that I wanted to do and all, but then marriage is a responsibility, isn't it, So anyway, it's okay. I had my son there, alhamdulillah.
How How did you get from Nairobi to Kampala?
By car.
How long was that journey? Wow.
It was quite a long journey. I think it was 5-6 hours journey from Nairobi to Kampala. Yeah.
What was your feelings of thinking you're in a new place now?
No, I was
New
very
environment?
unhappy. Initially, I missed my mom. I used to cry. Oh, I missed my siblings, because everything was new to me. And I was getting a bit bored at home. So then I did some teaching because I knew Islamiyat and I knew Urdu. So I got a job in Muslim girls' school in Kampala and taught these girls Urdu and Islamiyat. And actually, Shagufta and her sisters, them lot, I've taught them. And they remember me very well. And they say, Baji, but you used to come with such fantastic clothes. You had such a beehive and you were wearing saris and you were wearing... Because I'd just been married and I had all these clothes, So they remember.
Who did you live with once you got married?
We lived separately. I didn't live with my in-laws because my in-laws were in Mobale, in another town. And he got a job in Kampala.
Okay.
Forensic. He was into forensic photography. He did forensic. So he got a job there and I got a job in the school. And then I fell pregnant and then I had my son, And yeah.
How did you communicate with your family? Because there weren't no mobile phones or
Yeah,
internet.
there were no mobile, but there were telephones. Yeah. We could ring, They were expensive to ring. Most of the times it was letters. I used to write in Urdu to my father-in-law, to my mom, and I used to write Urdu letters in Urdu. Yeah, That's how we communicated. Sometimes I wonder, we used to travel 6 hours and there was no mobile phone, and what if the car went bust or whatever? What would we do? But
Those
we
thoughts
managed.
Yes.
Nothing happened.
Alhamdulillah.
Luckily, alhamdulillah,
And what was the food like? How was it different from Nairobi to Kampala?
It was very similar, but they ate more of cassava and matoke, they call it, plantain. And I wasn't used to eating mogo, cassava or plantain. But do you know, it grew on me because I was, they were all cooking it. And I developed a taste for it. And actually my son loves it as well, And now, once a while, in 2 weeks or once a week, we get the green matokes and boil them, mash them up and have it with the shorba, with lamb curry or a chicken curry, with the shorba. I still eat it, I still like it. But that grew on me, yes. But other things were similar, palau, biryani and shorba, that was similar, But different from Pakistani cooking. Because we developed different things, because we were living with Gujarati people, Hindu people, Sikh people, and we learnt things from them as well, We developed a taste for Gujarati food as well. There were restaurants in Nairobi which were Gujarati,
And after you had your first child,
Yeah.
did you go back to work or did you stay at home? What happened?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. It so happened, I did go back to work and I had a nanny looking after my son. I used to work part-time, 4 hours. What happened was, when he turned 1, my husband got a very good job in Zambia. Zambia is towards the southern Africa. He got a very, very good job there. And so we left Uganda, we went to Zambia. We stayed in Lusaka, a town called Lusaka. And we were given a very nice, very good accommodation. Beautiful accommodation. He worked for the University Teaching Hospital. My husband worked for University Teaching Hospital. We were given beautiful houses. We had a servant there. I had a nanny there, gardener. Life was very comfortable. And we never had winters like this, good life. And then because all expatriates were were working in Lusaka, consultant, doctors. They were Greeks, they were American, they were Lebanese, they were from all over the world, because it was an international kind of, cosmopolitan kind of a place, you know. So I learned a lot of, my best friend was Greek, and I learned Greek cooking from her.
Amazing.
And then I got a bit fed up at home, because I didn't like to be at home all the time. And we had a good nanny to look after my son. So I got a job with an engineering company. I worked there for a while.
What did you do there?
I did admin work, secretarial work. And
Can you remember the name of the engineering company?
Yeah, it was Livesey and Henderson. Livesey and Henderson. Yeah. So I left that job to go to the solicitors company, which was called Jakes and Partners in Lusaka, Jakes and Partners. And I did legal work. I got conveyancing, litigation, divorces, you know, and I did all kinds of this kind of job. And how mainly I could do before this I got a job with United Nations Economic Commission for Africa.
What did that entail?
Yes.
That sounds interesting.
That entailed taking shorthand. And luckily I had done shorthand in Nairobi, where they taught me. I'd done that course. And I got, that was a good job as well. But I then found this legal company which was paying me more. And I learned a lot from there as well. And the next thing is, there was a lawyer there who didn't like to use shorthand, because that's wasting time. He'd sit there with dictaphone and then give it to me the next day. But I loved doing it. I loved doing the dictaphone. I really enjoyed. Very good times, met a lot of people, made a lot of friends. And then came the problem of permits, because they were becoming strict. They wanted their Africans to get the jobs. So maybe I wasn't going to get the permit to work. So Alhamdulillah, Allah has been very kind. I got a job with the American Embassy, where there was no need, it was tax-free, and you did need a permit. And I got that job with the American Embassy, and I worked with part of the American Embassy was called American Cultural Center. There again I was very fortunate, because Americans were the first ones to bring in the computers. When I came in this country, nobody knew computers. I had 3-4 jobs given to me because I knew the computers. Who trained me? USIS, the American Embassy. We used to be trained all the time with different,
computers, yeah.
Computers, you know. And my God, and I really enjoyed working there. Really.
How long did you stay in Zambia for?
18 years. My daughter was born there. 18 years, a long time.
What was the environment like in Zambia?
It was very different. It was very different. There was not, because they were mainly expatriates from different countries, but the local people were actually Gujarati Muslims or South African Muslims who'd come from Gujarat, came to South Africa, and then even came to Zambia. They were very staunch Muslims. They were, you know. And we used to be able to get in Kenya all the mithai, any kind of halal beef, halal whatever, all kinds of groceries, you know. Not in Zambia, not in Lusaka. It was very hard. There were a lot of... Initially, it wasn't bad, but when they started with that war, they wanted to free Zimbabwe, you know, northern Rhodesia, southern Rhodesia. They wanted to free them, you know. They wanted independence. Zimbabwe was called Rhodesia, southern or northern, I can't remember now. But they wanted, and there was bombings going on there. And
did you experience this?
Yes, we experienced, but it didn't affect us. I can't say that it affected us, but it was a bit of a frightening thing, because there were things happening, you know. And eventually they did get their freedom.
Independence, yeah.
Yeah, what is his name? I've forgotten now. He died, or is he still alive? Mugabe. He didn't want to get off, but he was the leader. He was the prime minister. So yeah, we went to Zimbabwe as well for a holiday. We went to Swaziland, which is beautiful. And because he had a British contract, every 2 years we would be given tickets to go wherever we wanted to go. That way, me and my husband and my children, we traveled the world.
Well, I'm going to ask you about those adventures. Just want to ask you, once the new Prime Minister came in place in Zambia, did this have any political impact on yourself, or?
When we went to Zambia, it was already free. It was, who was our president? I can't even remember his name now. He was very, very good. Very, very good. It was very peaceful, you know. So there was no implication as such.
That's good.
They didn't look, because in Kenya and Uganda, they had that feeling that Indians are here, they're taking our jobs and they're running the businesses, you know. But we didn't see that resentment in Zambia, because they were very rich in copper, they had copper, and they were relying on expatriates, doctors, consultants, engineers, solicitors, because their people were not that educated. However, in Kenya, they are very smart. They have now reached very high level.
Great heights, yes.
The Africans there, they are so clever. They are very clever actually, the Kenyans. I'm not sure about the Ugandans, but the Kenyans, the Nigerians, and the Ghanaians, they are very, very clever.
Just going back to Zambia, I'm just intrigued to know, what was your home environment like? What was your home like? Can you describe
Home
that?
life was like that. Me and my husband would leave to go to work, put the children in the nursery, and go to work. And then I used to work part-time just as well. I used to be home like 12:30, 1 o'clock, pick up the children, come home, make some rotis for them and whatever, cook for them. And then they would go and play. They had a good childhood. They'd go and play outside, you know, on the bicycle. No danger. Nobody was scared of going out there, you know. They ride their bicycles, you would not be worried. And we had all these neighbors. They were Greeks, they were Ugandans, they were English, they were all sorts, you know, from India, you know, and the children mixed with each other. They did mix with it. And they remember, they both want to go back, but what they don't realize is it's not going to be the same.
You mentioned with your husband's job, you managed to travel to many different countries.
Yes.
Where did your adventures take you and your family?
It took us to America, Disneyland, Disney World.
How old were the children when you first went to America?
Yeah, first time, Shazia must have been about 4 or 5 and Harun must have been about 8 or 9. So we went to America with the children. We've been there, the whole family. Even when we came here, we went back. We went there 3 times, but I went 4th time because my husband knew a family whose son, Sikh, who was very, very bright. He got married and he came to London and he did his internship and whatever, and he's actually one of the best plastic surgeons in America, and he's still doing plastic surgery. He then goes to India and do all this plastic surgery on these Bollywood stars, but then he teaches them as well, the people who want to learn plastic surgery. So we went and stayed with them in America, Buffalo. They lived in Buffalo, near, it's not very far from New York, and it's very close to Toronto. Okay. And with that way, we got to see the Niagara Falls as well.
How did it feel the first time on a plane?
The first time on the plane was on a very sad occasion, because After 6 months of my marriage, in August, my father fell ill with heart problem. Yeah, it was a very sad occasion the first time because my father was not very good. So my husband put me on the plane. That was the fastest way. That was the first time I went in the plane. Thereafter, every 2 years in the plane, not 2 years, every year. Because what I did was, every 2 years they would give us a fare to go wherever. But then every year I'd want to see my mom in Kenya. So we'd pay off for my own ticket to go to Kenya. And I visited my mom every year. Family, you see, we had the friends there, but no family. But the friends were like family because none of them had families.
What happens with your siblings? Did they all stay in Nairobi?
My one sister is still in Nairobi because they've got business there, they're doing well. My brother, the one who I spoke about, came here a long time ago when he was 17. My other brother and my other sister and my mom, they all came 32 years ago.
What made you come to UK?
Yeah, well, what happened was that the children were going, like Haru, my son, had done his O-levels and he was going to go for A-levels. And my daughter was also going to go for O-levels and all that. And of course, because of the job he had, we had the option of putting them in a boarding school. So we put them in the boarding school in Halifax, Rishwath School. I don't know if you've heard about the name, Rishwath. They both went in that school. It did them good in a way because we're disciplined, making your own bed, self-sufficient and all that. So we couldn't have left them like that for too long. And I'm so glad we came back when we did.
In which year did you come to UK?
We came in 1987. And I'm so glad we came because we got settled here. I got a job with NHS, again admin. He got a job in Sheffield, he used to commute. He used to come every Friday and then go back on Monday. He worked in a hospital, Northern General Hospital. So it worked out all right. And then my children have to go to the university. And I'll tell you something, they do need the parents. They definitely need one parent to be around.
Was you in Kenya then when your children went to Rishwath, or had you moved to
in
UK?
Zambia.
In Zambia. Was you in Zambia then?
We were in Zambia.
Wow.
We were in Zambia when we sent them to the boarding school, the last 2 years of our stay. And then we said, we can't carry on living here. Of course, the lifestyle was very good, we had a lot of friends and a lot of barbecues and good life, knocker, chucker, very nice life. But you have to weigh. And because I'm glad we came because my children got their education in university, they then got married because to get them married there would have been really difficult, very difficult. People come and go there, expatriates, and I made some lovely friends. I am still in contact with them. 2 of them are Greek, and those were lovely days as well, beta, but it's fine,
How did you feel what was the biggest impact of coming to UK for you?
The impact was that I was so used to the Garmi, nice warm weather, servants, and so much help in the kitchen. Here I had to do everything myself. I used to invite people, family and all that, and from A to Z you got to do yourself. There the guy would cut me the onions, the vegetable, the meat, and I'd just be cooking, and then he'd do the washing. And if we had a party, he would pack the food in the containers and put it in the fridge. Here, I have to do everything myself. That is the impact. But overall, I'm glad we came when we did. Yeah. Now I wouldn't be able to go and live there because when you're used to this system, because there is a system here, there's a discipline, you can't do your own thing. There, underdeveloped countries, it's not like that, they take their time to do bits and pieces, they take time. Here, no. Everything is done at a professional level, and there's a system.
Ansary, you mentioned you feel as though people have changed a lot over the years.
A lot.
Why do you think this is?
This is electronic age, Shabana. What we are left with now is WhatsApp and Facebook and Twitter and God knows what else, right? And I find communicating people on the Facebook, connecting people with the Facebook, the advantage is that, I have to say, the advantage, of course, I've got friends that I still go out with, not with the lockdown anyway, but I've got my colleagues that I used to go out for meals and all that with them, I miss that because now we can't, Christmas, and all that. There were a lot of things that I enjoyed about it as well, and the thing is that now it's WhatsApp and it's Facebook and it's the electronic age, mobile phones, I think this is why we are where we are. We used to visit friends, we used to, here, we used to visit friends regularly, family regularly. Now, either it is because we are all getting old as well, or people are just communicating via phones, and it wasn't like that. In the time that, even when I came here, it wasn't like that. It's become like that.
What major changes have you seen since 1987 to the year we're in now?
A lot of mega changes, mega changes. Everything is becoming more and more difficult. I look at my grandchildren, and my granddaughter is 17, and I look at her bag when she goes to school, and I'm thinking, oh my God, there's so much pressure on these children, young children, right? We never had that kind of pressure. My children did not have that kind of pressure. So, it's not, I know there are advantages as well with the electronic, the Facebook, but there are disadvantages as well. People don't bother to talk to each other because, Facebook, just text, Whereas we used to phone and talk and communicate, nothing of that sort going on. And I've got a group of friends who are actually, most of them from Uganda, Lado's family, because they are all from Kampala. And actually I'm related to Lado's older, not me directly, my Auntie Akhtar, Mrs. This lady that you met. Her sister-in-laws, two sisters. One has died, unfortunately. And I was very close with them because they got married in Uganda. And I was newly married, they were newly married, so we had a lot of things in common. They were fashionable like I was.
What was your fashion style like?
Oh, the fashion style was really tight-fitted shirts, tight-fitted churidar, right? And your figure would really, because you had a figure, you see. Now we don't have a figure. And we did all the fashions that you saw in Bollywood.
The clothes you wore, did you sew them yourself or did you buy them?
No. My mom gave me a lot of clothes when I got married, saris and suits and churidars and all that. So I was wearing them for a long time. I didn't need to buy. I had lots of clothes, But when I came to Zambia, of course, the fashion was
How was it different?
You couldn't buy our clothes there. You could buy the material. You could get and strangely enough, I was the first one to wear shalwar kameez in Zambia after a long time, because the fashion came in Kenya and I was the first one who followed shalwar kameez, because when I went to Zambia, it was skirts, maxi skirts, trousers, tops, flares, right? I stitched myself because I used to get the patterns, batik and style. So I followed the patterns, and this is where I was so glad that I had learned in the school, because I bought a Bernina machine, right? And I did all the sewing. I stitched clothes for my daughter, but only from a pattern. I can't go cutting like that. I need a pattern, you know. So the shalwar came, and I used to go to Kenya, and they have such wonderful tailors. So I never had to stitch. So got the clothes stitched from there and then wore them in Zambia. And they would all admire my clothes because from Kenya, you know, fashionable and all that. But then when I came here, initially there were no ready-made clothes the way we get them now. So there was a girl, Saida, who lives in Oldham, and she was teaching ladies at Safara. It used to be called Safara Training Center.
In Rochdale?
Rochdale, on Spotland Road. And she taught us to cut kamisa, shalwara, and my God, we all did so much stitching there as well.
And is that what you wore when you came to UK, Slovakia?
Initially, no, because initially I was stitching my trouser suits, because at that time it was trouser suits, you know. But when it came to shalwar kamisa, then I had to learn. So I learned, but then there came a stage that my neck and my back started giving me problem. And the physiotherapist said, you're sitting on the computer all this time for so many years, and you're sitting on the sewing machine, you have to give up one or the other.
Oh dear.
So for my health's sake, I said, no, I can do without the stitching, but I like my work because it's a bit of social for me. I meet people.
Yes.
And I learned so much from people that I was working with. I learned so much in this country.
What kind of things would you feel you've learnt?
I felt, you know, there were things that the typing to start off. My colleague, she was very good. She was one grade above me, and she actually trained me to organize the meetings, which I never did in Zambia. To organize the meetings, to do the letters in certain way, to do Excel, and then I did the European ECDL. They taught us. I mean, they organized NHS. I owe them a lot because of them, and because they taught us Excel, PowerPoint, all these things I learned via, and I even got a card, you know, that I've done all the 5 modules.
That's excellent.
Yeah. And it was a very different experience working here. There they were a bit laid back, you know, not here, you know. I worked for very, very hard working directors, you know, that they just will not leave you alone. You've got to keep on going at it, you know. So,
Do you feel there was more pressure on work in the UK compared to
100%,
Zambia?
100%.
Why would you say that is? Why do you think?
I think they're more laid back. Everything is slow. You know, they don't put. I never got scared of going to work, but here when there were minutes, because I used to hate doing the minutes. I used to hate doing the minutes, but I had to. But I managed somehow, and I would not sleep if I had the minutes the next day.
Dear.
So, you know, there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But then in turn, I learned to do the minutes, not as well as Kathy would, my colleague, but I learned to do the minutes. I learned how to organize. I learned the ECDL, Excel and all that, and I did it for them, you know. But now you don't use it, you lose it. I can't. My husband was asking me, can you do Excel? I said, I've forgotten. I can't.
How long did you work for the NHS in UK?
I worked for NHS for like 24 years. Since I came in this country, I was working. I retired about 11 years ago. I could have retired at 60, but I retired at 61.
And you worked as a?
I worked as a personal secretary.
Was it just for one person or was it a couple of people?
I worked for different times. I worked for different people. Initially, I was working for one manager. Thereafter, I was working for 3 of them. Thereafter, I worked for 2 at Littleborough Health Centre. I was based at Littleborough Health Centre. John Lloyd and Carol Pollard, there were two of them. But then the main lady was Kathy. She's also a very good friend of mine. She was in charge and she would delegate that you do this, Yasmin, you organize this and you organize it. And through her, I learned a hell of a lot. All these meetings, the booking the venues and all this was new to me because I never did them there.
And did you learn how to drive in UK?
I learned to drive in Zambia.
What was that like?
Very hard.
What was difficult about it?
If I was to give an exam today, I'd fail. I think it was much easier in my time. But I passed the first time in Africa.
How old was you?
How old was I?
Roughly.
Roughly 38 I was when I got, maybe 28. So I came with that license and they put drums there and you have to sort of reverse, you know, and all that. They were not doing parallel parking. I'm hopeless at it. I can't do parallel park. So like I said, Shabana, if I was to give an exam today here, fail. Because there's so much theory and everything, you know, so I couldn't. But I passed here, I did.
I think driving abroad is very difficult for anybody because the rules are completely different and people walking into the roads. And it's not just cars, is it, that you have to think about? It's
everybody, pedestrians, you have to be careful. You have to be careful, you know.
Because here we've got the pavements for protection there.
There's nothing.
No.
There's nothing. But there used to be a lot of car accidents in Zambia as well. Lot of car people do.
Have you been back to any of
I haven't been to
countries?
Zambia, but I've been to Kenya 2-3 times.
When did you last go to Kenya?
Last time I went when my nephew got married. About 10 years maybe. 10 years.
How had it changed?
Oh, it's changed. The traffic is shocking. And it's not a very safe place. I mean, when my brother-in-law was taking us to the airport, somebody came and the next car next to us, they took the mirror right in front of the driver, you know. So these kind of things are happening there, you know.
Did you go back to where your childhood was?
No, I never went back there because those are all occupied. They become like shanties, you know, that area. But where my sister lives, it's beautiful. It's a diplomatic area because they were robbed on gunpoint because they were living in a very lavish, beautiful house. And I think it was an inside job. This guy knew where everything was, the watches, whatever. And I think eight of them came and they demanded to be given everything, and they just gave everything. And after that, my sister did not want to live in that area. So they moved into a diplomatic area, which is quite expensive, but then they've got security guards and the dogs, you know, so they're pretty safe there, you know. Yeah. This is why I'm happier here, because in Africa, they used to do this, robberies. We had a massive burglary in Zambia.
What happened?
We had a session dog outside. He never barked. They must have given him something. And there was a bar door which we always closed, right?
How old were the children at the time? Can you remember?
I can't remember now. Long time ago. They were young. They were very... Okay. And I got up in the morning. I opened that bar door. My freezer was gone. My carpet was gone. All my groceries, which I had put the butter, because shortages we used to stock up, you know. And all my pots and pans and kettle and everything had gone. They came overnight, maybe in a truck. They gave something to the dog and we never got up, we never saw. But just as well, you know, because at least we are safe. So there are experiences like that. And I have a vivid memory. I think I must have been about 7 or 8. Frightens me like mad. This is in Kenya. My father went to work and these Africans came, 4 or 5 of them. And they wanted money and jewelry and everything. And I was watching all that. And my mom was there, and she says, take everything. So that was terrible, horrible. That was one incident, and the other incident was in Zambia when we woke up in the morning. But it was better that way than to confront them.
Yes. And thankfully, in both occasions, you didn't get hurt and your family didn't get hurt.
Thank God. Alhamdulillah.
Thank goodness, yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
From all the 4 different countries you've lived in, if you could live in any of them again, which one would it be?
I would love to live in Kenya.
Yeah.
But I know I can't. Because the medical care, the system is not there, there is corruption there, which we can't cope with it now because I've been here in 33 years now. I'm used to this life.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't like to go back. But if I did, it would be Kenya.
Yeah. You've been absolutely amazing, Auntie G, with this interview. You've shared lots of memories. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I think I've told you everything.
You've been amazing. Are there any words you'd like the people who are listening to remember you by in this interview?
Well, what can they remember? Yeah, I've been places. I've been to all places. I've been to India 3-4 times. I've been to Pakistan 3 times. I've been to Swaziland. I've been to all sorts of countries. Saudi, we went for Umrah a long time ago, and a lot of places. Yes, I've traveled a lot. And coming here, we've traveled even more. My son was based in Dubai for 5-6 years, and so I used to go every year, sometimes twice a year. So that was very nice, because my son, I think, he likes Dubai because that's more like what he likes in Africa. It's the weather and everything, although it can be very hot. But I think his heart is in the Middle East because of the lifestyle, They had a very good lifestyle in Dubai, You get very good, home help, from Indonesia, from Philippines and all that. Some of them are spoilt as well. But there is that, you get a driver, and they were used to all this. They had a good life. But with them as well, they have to come back because of the children, because there is no place for education like this country, full stop. This is the country for education. So they had to come because of their children as well, because once the children reach a certain age, they get used to that life, they get spoiled, and then it's difficult for them to adjust.
Yeah.
So now he's been here nearly a year. So they are settled. The children are settled. He's settled, So that's good.
You've achieved so much over all these years, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
What do you feel is your greatest achievement besides having your 2 children and your husband?
Getting them married.
Yeah.
Because it's a difficult situation, to get the children married in this country, who are on your wavelength. Very difficult, and I think that was one of the most university. Everything was a piece of cake compared to the marriages. Who are they going to marry? What are they going to be like? That is a worry, isn't it? But alhamdulillah, they are both happily married. So I think I've achieved everything. And my mom lives in London, so I used to visit her every 3-4 months. But now with this lockdown, I haven't seen her for a year and a half. I haven't seen my brother. I haven't seen my sisters. I have no family here. He's got his family here. I haven't. I've got friends, yes, very good friends. But there you are.
Where's your family mainly based?
My family is mainly based in London, Hounslow, Heston. My brother lives in central London. He also has got a country house in Bournemouth. So because of the corona, he spends a lot of time with his son in Bournemouth.
Oh, lovely.
He's got a country house, beautiful country house, yeah.
Auntie G, you've been absolutely amazing. I've thoroughly loved doing this interview with you, and I know that people are going to thoroughly love listening to it
Thank
also.
you very much.
And I wish you and your family all the very best for
Thank
the
you so
future.
much, Shabana. Thank you for coming over.
Thank you,
Thank
Auntie
you
G.
so much.
Thank you.